Hello and welcome to Knit.Purl.Repeat. My name is Jess and I'm coming to you from Southwest Florida. This channel is mainly about knitting, but there's also some occasional spinning, crochet, and sewing thrown in. So if that sounds interesting to you, then please grab a project, get comfortable, and join me for a chat. This is episode 11. Welcome. Thanks so much for taking some time out of your day to come and join me for a chat. Today is Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025. If you're returning, thank you so much for coming back. And if you're new here, I will give you a little bit of information of where to find me. All the things that I talk about today, where to find me, patterns, makers, things like that, you will find listed in the description box for this episode. There will also be timestamps for the different segments of the video. So you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Jess's Makes. And you can also send me an email if you have any questions about content in the video. And that email is Gnit.Purl.Repeat@gmail.com. Hopefully that's been up here on the screen in addition to being in the description box. If I do mention something and I've forgotten to put a link below in the in the description box, please just drop me a comment or send me an email and I will get that added back in. Hopefully your week has gone well or is going well whenever you're watching this. It's been a pretty chilly week here in Florida. Not that it's unusual to get colder weather or maybe freezing temperatures now and then, even down here in the Tampa Bay area. But normally we don't have them this consistently, week after week. So that's been unusual. That also has meant that I realize I need some more work appropriate knitwear, meaning things that are a bit more polished for work. So I'll talk about some of those future cast-ons a little bit later on. But if you have seen in the news and you live anywhere in the US, well, you know that there have been a lot of winter storms coming across the entire country. The latest one dumping a lot of snow as it's worked its way from the west to the east. That includes northern Florida. So the northern part of Florida up near Alabama and Georgia received quite a significant amount of snow yesterday. And we did not get snow here. We have just had lots and lots of rain. It's been rainy and gusty winds and temperatures in the high 30s, low 40s Fahrenheit in the mornings, maybe warming up towards 50s by the afternoon. But gray and rainy. It does not feel like Florida right now. It feels more like other parts of the world I've been to that get weather like that. So if you live there, that's nothing to you, right? That's normal. Not so normal here for Southwest Florida. Anyway, that was quite amazing to see. If you're anywhere in the Los Angeles area or other areas impacted in the US by the wildfires, I hope you're safe. Most of all, hopefully you haven't lost lost your home or anything like that, but mainly I hope that you're safe and that these fires are ending soon. So let's get into the knitting content. Let's focus on some happiness, hopefully, for the next bit of time. I better get a move on so that this isn't an hour-long episode. Okay, so what I will start with is my Farrick cardigan. For the last time, at least talking about it, I mentioned last time that I would insert some footage of me wearing it. So I decided not to wear it today because it's too difficult how I'm sitting and set up to show it to you. So I will insert some video here on the screen, probably interrupting me talking, and show you me modeling it, which is always very, not uncomfortable necessarily, but awkward. Awkward is the word I'm looking for, right? Trying to film yourself wearing it. So you'll notice it is a cropped length. This was the small size because of the yarn amounts I had. It's blocked out pretty well, and it's held this size really well, even though it's been hanging, I had it hanging up actually for the last week. So it hasn't really rebounded significantly. I do find though, because of the wide neckline and the way that those, the lapels, I guess, are they lapels? The collar, they're not lapels. What is this, 1970s? I don't know. Anyway, the collar flops, right? It's gonna flop and hang because it's not buttoned. I actually find that I think I will need to put a couple buttons just up in this section, just to keep that part closed. I think it'll just hang nicer. So I'll have to look for some buttons to go with that. I'll probably just get some black buttons so that they don't detract from the overall look, because I want the sweater is really the piece. I don't want the buttons to be the focus. So I'll probably do that. But I'm relatively happy with how it's turned out. I would have preferred it to be a little bit larger overall in size, but I wouldn't want the neck to get larger, so I would have to probably deal with that a little bit. Okay, so as I've been doing in my episodes this year so far, is recapping some finished objects from 2024, since I didn't do a whole recap of the entire year. At least focusing on those objects that I haven't already talked about and that I feel like talking about again a year later. So one of those is a crochet project this week. So this is the only crochet garment I made. I'm sorry, I'm tangled now. And I will insert a picture of the pattern photo. So this is the Granny Pop V-neck sweater pattern by MJ's Off the Hook. I used the free pattern that is on her website on the blog, but there is a paid for version of the pattern as a PDF if that option is more suitable to you. So here is my finished one. I'm going to just kind of hold it back awkwardly to show you. Okay, so I will talk about this one. I think I do have a photo of me wearing it somewhere, that if I do, I will insert it here on the screen so you can see how it fits. This was really an experiment because I just wanted to try it out. I like V-neck sweaters, and I've been wanting to make some more crochet garments, but I wanted to try this out, and since it was a V-neck and it was free and I had some yarn to test with, that's what I did. So the yarn I've used is a Lion brand color changing yarn, and I will put the name up here on the screen because I forgot to look that up. It was yarn that I had in my stash for making a Tunisian crochet baby blanket that I abandoned for various reasons. Nothing to do with the pattern whatsoever. It is, so therefore it is 100% acrylic yarn. So there's a lot of unnatural fibers in this episode, but this was an experiment. I thought there's nothing to lose here. I get a chance to try out this pattern and use up this yarn. I can always donate it, gift it, whatever. And actually I think turned out quite cute, even though I don't think of that as something in when I want to wear an outfit as something being cute, but I like it's come out nicely, and I can see myself wearing it probably just hanging around the house, something to throw on when it gets a bit chilly or when we go camping. I did do some color management. So it is one of those long gradational yarns. So you do start at the top and you start working back and forth to build up the yoke of the sweater. And then you start working around. You do stop for the sleeves, split for the sleeves at some point under here, come back and pick them up again. So when I did that, I just looked through the balls and I just kind of pulled the different balls apart until I got to the same color sequence. So it is very consistent between one ball to the other. So what I did differently from the pattern really was just to knit all the ribbing. So I prefer knitted ribbing to crocheted, and it's so easy to pick up stitches from a crocheted edge when you're dealing with the chains. So if you're not familiar with crochet, the foundation chain is equivalent to the edge, more or less equivalent to the edge of a cast on in knitting, and the bind off would look like the last row that you worked in crochet. So you get those nice loops and you just stick your needle right through there and pick up stitches. So it's very simple, nice and easy. So I just picked up to get the same number of stitches and worked the ribbing on the cuff and on the neck. Yeah, so that was an outfit, a sweater from last year. Have I worn it at all? No. So would I make this again? No, because I probably won't wear it because as we've seen, I don't tend to wear it. Would I wear it if it were a solid color? Probably not either. Maybe around the house as like a sweatshirt type of thing. But it was an interesting design, and to see how you do a sort of raglan increased look in crochet was really interesting, and to make a v-neck. I really liked learning about that. But unless it was a gift for somebody, I don't see myself making it. But I will wear this at some point. I just haven't yet. So probably this weekend, because it's cold in my house. So I probably will throw it on. Right, so that's an object from 2025. So let's move on to finished objects. So I have 2 finished objects this week. One is something I promised last week I would be done, or I set it to make sure I got them done in time. And that is my pair of socks using the Farmer's Daughter Fibers Sock Squad color for January, which are these 2 glorious colors. So I haven't blocked them other than putting them on the sock blockers to take pictures, because I will just put them on. So last time I mentioned that I had started making the Wintry Woods socks, also a toe-up pattern, but that one's from Nancy Wheeler. And I switched to the DRK Everyday Socks pattern by Andrea Mowry. And so I had started with just doing the toe of one sock so that I didn't have to split up the mini into 2 mini balls. And after I finished the toes, then I just put that aside on those needles and cast on the second toe, and then eventually join them together onto one needle, working 2 at a time magic loop. Once I established the the ribbing pattern, then it's just working around until you increase for the gusset, which builds this nice pattern here. So it keeps the pattern going. And then you do work 1 heel at a time, even though it's 2 at a time. So you stop and you work back and forth on this fleagle heel, which is a short row heel. So I finish 1 sock and then drop that yarn and then move over to the second sock with its ball of yarn and make that heel. And then you join in the round and resume that. And so I just resumed working them at the same time until I got long enough. And then I worked the contrast color again to finish the top. I think I probably would have liked these to be a little bit longer. I was trying to get them kind of about the same thickness as the toe, but I also wanted to use that yarn for my gnome. So it's kind of, well, that's good enough. Let's stop there. So I think I worked 12 rounds just for the cuff. And so these fit really well. I love them. They turned out wonderful with this yarn. So there is color pooling, but of course that's fine. And it's broken up by the ribbing, and they fit great. So there will be more of these, I'm sure. Yeah, we'll see what February color brings and what pattern I will make in February. I am determined to not purchase new sock patterns unless, something comes up and I really have to have that one. But I really want to make the socks that I already own patterns for, but I realized a lot of them really need solid colors, or at least semi-solids, for them to work. So we'll see what comes with the Farmer's Daughter fibers, if I make any of those with that yarn this year. That's finished object number 1. Finished object number 2 is my test knit I mentioned last week. It's a test knit for Anina of Annijuutiknits. She said it's not a secret. She's been spreading the word, so I'm going to share my finished test knit, and it is this one here. This is the Braided Hood snood pattern, which will be released in February. I think Anina has 2 test knits going on, this one and then the sweater. I signed up for this one because it was short. It was a fast knit. So it uses DK weight held, she used DK weight held with a silk, an alpaca strand. Others are knitting it with thicker yarns, right? The thicker, the floofier, the chunkier it's gonna get. So there's a wide range that the test knitters are using. So look out for those photos when they get posted. So you make this braid, and then you pick up and make the rest of the pattern, which is in garter stitch. So super fast. That's why I got done really fast. Plus I had yarn on hand. It's not the yarn that I intended to use, but I didn't care for that yarn pairing with this braided pattern. I was also a bit concerned about using a variegated yarn, because this pattern is absolutely gorgeous in a solid color, which you will see from some of the I think all the other test knitters have used so far that I've seen. But I think it's worked out well with this one. So some differences in this pattern, in the yarn choices. So this I shared last time. I showed you, I think, the balls, the colors. I'll put them up here again so you can see what they look like separately. And now I'm going to have lots of floof in my mouth, because I held a 100% baby alpaca DK'd worsted weight yarn with a strand of Surrey silk, Surrey alpaca and silk lace weight, both slightly variegated, but the same colors from 2 different places. So one is hand dyed by Liz at Arrow Acres Farm, and the other was from Ritual Dyes. So I will link them both below. So because it's 100% alpaca, well, it's mostly alpaca with a little bit of silk, it means lots of softness, lots of drape to it. That can also mean that the cabling doesn't have that oomph and volume that you get with something like a wool. But I knew that, and I knew it would stretch and it would drape more and not have as much elasticity as you get with wool. So I did make sure not to really block the braid, but I think you still get quite a contrast with the braid. I did also make the braided section shorter so that it would be snug enough to stay up and not stretch out and fall down. We'll see how that works out with time. But you make, you have this nice little braid. You've got your front and back flaps that you work separately back and forth, and you can make them as long as you like. I will put a photo of it on up here so that you can see how it wears, because if I put it on, take it off, I will be covered in fluff and you will watch me picking it out, because I tried this before to film it for you. So that's something to consider as well, right? The fluff factor. But the idea behind it, Anina said, was that, you know, you're cold and maybe it's cold enough that you want to get the wind off your ears and pull it up a bit, but you don't want a whole hood over your head, you know, or you don't want to mess up your hair. So you make it so that it sits right up here and will stay. So that is why I made it a little bit shorter. You can also adjust the length of the braid however long you like it, just by trying it on with what you're wearing and your gauge. So it's really flexible and a very fast knit. So this would be a great gift knit as well, if you're looking for that over the year for somebody. So that pattern will be coming out in February. All right, so let's move on to works in progress. I have 3 that I'm actively working on that I will share with you as soon as I find where I put them. So my first one, oh, and I didn't change it. My first one is something I'm going to actually try to move my needles. I cast on the beginnings of Gnedward, a gnome pattern. I'll show up here by Schira of Imagine Landscapes. And I'm using the leftover yarn from the socks that I just showed you. So I started with the contrast color and made the hat here. So you make the balls and then you knit the hat and then you attach the balls to the hat. So this is the little hat here. It's a bit skewed right now because my needles are not in the stitches underneath evenly. So you bind off up here at the top and then you, which often happens in at least the patterns I've made from Schira so far, you often pick up and under the brim of the hat to then start working the body downwards, which is what's happening with this pattern. So I have just picked up the stitches underneath the hat brim this morning because there was light and I could see to do it. And now I'm going to attach the main color, which is this, and work the body and the arms in this color. And hopefully I have enough of this contrast color to make the feet. If not, I have another color that's similar color family. It's just a little different than this color, but you know, it's there for the feet. So they can be whatever you want to use. I haven't chosen a beard color yet. I'm still looking at my stash and my scraps to pick a beard color. So we'll see after it's done what color looks right. Yeah, so that's Gnedward so far, and I love it. I love this little hat so far. So that will be something, hopefully I'm done by next week, but I'm not going to guarantee it. It'll be done when it's done. Right, my next one is the Prairie Skies sweater. So that is a pattern that comes from this issue of Pom Pom magazine. I've talked about it before. It has a crochet V-neck that you make granny squares and then attach them together. So it looks like this when you start. Then what you do is you pick up stitches along the left side of the yoke and the right side of the yoke. You start with the right, then you go left. But anyway, I wanted to show you what it looked like before you pick them up. And you work some short rows to create the sleeves and build, sorry, I'm talking behind the sweater, and build the sweater out. So eventually when you get to this point, you'll be able to then just work in the round down the body and then come back later and finish the sleeves and pick up for the neck. Now I've done this right half 3 times, but third time was the charm. It has nothing to do with the pattern or understanding the pattern instructions. It took me a little bit to make sure I knew what it was telling me because it gave you some information to use before you actually follow the instructions, right? So I was like, oh, okay. Anyway, it was very easy to pick up stitches because again, I had 10 granny squares sewn together and it told you how many stitches to pick up per granny square. So that came out really nicely. Being there were 10, that made the math nice and easy. And you had those nice loops, those chains to stick your needle into. So I use a smaller needle size when I'm picking up stitches so you don't get those big gaps later when you work the other rows. So you have to work short rows back and forth. And then while you're doing that, every so often, you're also increasing on the sides of the sleeves. And apparently that was a problem for my brain. I think I lost track. I know something went wrong initially. So I just ripped it out and thought, it's easy enough to pick up, I'll just start over. So I went through the second time and I thought I had done it correctly. But when I counted my stitches, the sleeve was correct, but the outsides where I was doing increases were uneven on each side, and I couldn't figure out where it had gone wrong. And because you're only working half of the side of the sweater, I didn't want to fudge it and then not have it be the same length in terms of the row count as the other side. So I ripped it out again. So that was the second time. Picked up stitches again, which was really fast. Not my favorite thing to do, but very fast in this case because of the crochet edges. And got out 2 row counters. So one that I would keep track of which row I was on for the repeats, and then the other one for the number of repeats. The only thing I had to try to actually focus on, remember, is on that increase row to make sure I did my increases on each side. So I had been binge watching Ted Lasso while doing this over several days, and that may have been part of the problem. I was paying more attention to the show, thinking I was keeping track. So by the third time, even still watching, that worked. I got it done. And so now I'm almost done with the right side. So I can go back and now do it all again on the left side of the yoke and hope it only takes me one time to do it. So please cross your fingers for me that I can do it on the first go this time and move forward with the sweater. So I'm really happy with it. You know, the feel of it, it's recycled materials. It's not wool, but it's okay. I do really like the darker colors for this pattern. I think more so than the lighter. So even though this does have the granny stitches up here, I imagine that I would wear this more than I will wear that granny V-neck sweater. We'll see, right? Time will tell. We'll see over the year when I finish it, if I do wear it at all or often. But I'm enjoying it, even having to redo that section over and over again. My last work in progress is a lingering whip. So this is something that has been on the needles quite some time. I think I got bored after a while because I'm on the body. You know, I saw the shiny new things over there, and so it just kept getting put to the side. And it is the Cascade tank top by Lena Ricks. And I am getting very close to doing the bottom hem. So here it is. What really drew me to this top is the finishing. So you have these nice I-cord edges to finish, but it's really this pattern that comes down the front on the straps and down over the chest. I really love that architectural look to it. And you do work a, it's 3 purls and 1 twisted knit stitch. Although once you get down here, you can turn it inside out, and the instructions tell you can choose to knit it inside out so that you're doing knits and then purling through the back, or you can do the purls and knit through the back. I prefer to knit through the back loop and not purl through the back loop. So I chose to work it the right side out, and so it's purling with a knit, which I prefer. I don't mind purling. It's just part of knitting. I'm fine with it. So the only part I don't like about it so far is, of course, all the ends you have to weave in, just because the way it's constructed in pieces at first, but it's worth it to get this at the top. Also, for whatever reason, when I picked up, you can see it here, I think. When I picked up off this I-cord edge, which I picked up from I-cord edges many times before in shawls and such, it just really got stretched out. And I redid it several times, and I'm not sure what happened there. So I might go back and fix that, but since it's on the back of the neck, I might just leave it. We'll see if it bothers me. But this is one of those tops that I was knitting on last night. Now binge watching my next series, which is called Shrinking. So I have a trial streaming service, so I'm trying to get everything in before time is up. So I watched several episodes of that, and so I think I knit from here downwards. Somewhere in here, I measured this length of the body from the underarm, and it was 10 inches, which meant I was getting closer to the bottom hem, starting that. So I thought, oh, okay, I'm almost there, but I need to knit at least to like 11 inches or so. So my total length is about 12 inches. So I measured it like episodes later, and it still came out as 10 inches. So I'm going to take that as it was just late at night, and because that's not possible to still be the same measurement. It feels like that sometimes with fingering weight, right? So I didn't mention, this is fingering weight. So here it is. I'm using this is light fingering weight. I'm using a hand-dyed yarn that I have washed several times because it's turned my hands green while knitting. And hopefully it is done losing the excess dye so I don't look like the Incredible Hulk when I take off the shirt and look like I'm still wearing a green shirt. So that's the hope. But I'm nearly there. I'm getting there. So this is my kind of round and round knitting right now, since I don't have any socks on the needles. Okay, so that was my last active work in progress. I have some upcoming cast-ons. One of them is related to a recent acquisition. So I'll just really briefly talk about this because I haven't swatched or anything for it, and I'll talk more about it hopefully next week. But I've got this lovely yarn. Yeah, that's about the right color. Look at that. I hope you can see it, maybe against my lighter colored shirt. So this is a yarn from Valley Yarns called Charlemont. Hopefully you can see on there. It may not be focusing on the names, so I'll read it to you. It is fine superwash merino mulberry silk polyamide in a 60-20-20 ratio. It's 100 grams, you get 439 yards. So this is going to be the Sweet Melody top. I'll put the photo up here. It is a pattern by Libby Johnston, currently only available to subscribers, members of Wardrobe Toolbox, which I am a member of. This was our December pattern that Libby released to us. It will be available eventually to purchase on Ravelry, but it is there if you want to take a look at it in advance. This is one of my tops that I wanted to make that was a little bit more polished rather than casual, too casual. That's why I got this merino silk polyamide blend, so that it would have that sheen and kind of drape and hopefully make it a little bit more something I would wear to work. So that's an upcoming object. I am still waiting on my hand spun yarn exchange from my swap buddy to arrive so that I can cast on for the Grid Gambit Cowl knit along that is starting this weekend. It is co-hosted by the pattern designer, Samantha Guerin, and Emily who's the Botanical Knitter. So they're hosting this knit along on Instagram. You don't have to use hand spun yarn for the project, but if you do have hand spun yarn that's a sport to DK weight, this is a great project to use that as your contrasting color. I suppose you could do it the opposite, but you would have to have more if you want it for the main color. So both need to be DK, sport to DK weight, 2 colors for this cowl. So that knit along is starting soon. So if you want more information, head over to their Instagram accounts over there, and to get more information. I will also be participating in the Woolly Thistles Colorwork Accessories make along. So you can knit or crochet. They might call it a cowl, but you can knit or crochet a colorwork accessory. If you want to join in, I will link their sign up page below, or you can just get more information about the make along. They do have Ravelry groups and a Facebook group that are really active. If you want to be eligible for prizes, I believe you have to use at least 80% of yarn that you purchase from them, but you can always join in and make along with everybody else, chat in the groups and share there, and you don't have to worry about being eligible. You're just not eligible for the prizes, but you can still make along. They're a great community group. So if you need help or you just want that interaction, those are two great places to go. I will be making the Alpine Bloom hat by Caitlin Hunter. I wanted to make this color combination of the black and the white. The Woolly Thistle has a kit for this as well, but the colors, this black and white version and the yarn that they had was out of stock. So I'm waiting for that to come back in stock because I really would like to make that version. But in the meantime, I am going to make it in some stash yarn that I have here. It's some lichen and lace sport weight wool. So it is a sport weight yarn pattern. And I'm going to do the inverse of dark and light colors for this version. So I'm going to use the dark color as the flowers and the lighter color as the background, so that when I do make the other version, they're different that way as well. The last make along I want to talk about is one I keep forgetting to mention while recording, and that is the New to You make along for 2025. This make along is hosted by the ladies at Cocktail Hour at the Coop YouTube channel. You can also find them over on Instagram for more information. To participate, all you have to do is try something new to you that's in the fiber arts, post a picture on Instagram using the hashtag NewToYouMal2025, and you will be eligible to win prizes. It can be anything new. It doesn't have to be a new craft. It could be new materials, new technique, anything that's new to you. Just make sure that you say in your comments what it is about that is new to you. Okay, that's it for this week. And until I see you next time, happy crafting and take care. Bye.